Hey, everybody. Welcome to Family Formation Daily Devotions for you and your home during COVID-19. We are going to take another look at some Hebrew poetry, and we're going to look at Psalm 133 today. This is one of my favorite passages. I love this psalm. I find that it's super beautiful, but I think it also has a timely word for us today. So let's go ahead and take a peek at this passage together. Here we go. Uh, Psalm 133. Notice it's a song of ascents of David. Now, remember, song of ascents means it was a song that was sung by the Hebrew people as they ascended up the Temple Mount, approaching the temple of God in order to bring their worship and their sacrifice. And so this would have been a worship song for God's people in the Old Testament as they would have drawn near to his presence at the temple. And this is what they would sing together. They would sing, "Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity. It is like precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore." So this is a simple song, simple poem here, Hebrew poetry. We have verse 1 that really tells us what this psalm is all about. It is a good thing and it is a pleasant thing when brothers dwell together in unity. Now, as a father of two boys, it is a good when biological brothers who are young and quarantined, when they dwell together in unity, it is very good and very pleasant. We like that in our house when my two boys dwell together in unity as brothers. But we know that this is talking about the family of God, the people of God. When there is right relationship between one another as the people of God, it is. Notice at the bottom there, it is good. It is tov. This is the same word that was used in Genesis chapter 1 when God creates everything, and it says that he creates it and it was good. He created this and it was good. He created it and it was good. The same word is that was used there is used here. How good it is tov. It was tov when God created, and this is tov in the sense that this is God's design. This is the good, abundant life that God has in store for his people, and it's pleasant. It is enjoyable. It is the fullness of life when brothers dwell together in unity. So from verse 1 on into verse 2 and verse 3, what we have is two similes that help to explain and give us a little bit of a word picture of how dwelling together as the people of God in unity, how it is a good and pleasant. And so the first thing that we see is that it is like precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes. This might seem to you a quite messy scene, just oil running all over some guy's beard. Yeah, messy, but it was a really good thing. It was, let's go ahead and do a little something here. I am going to, having some issues with that. All right, we're going to come back here. We could, well, this is how we can do it. We're going to come back here, and now let's try it. Okay. Well, that didn't work either. So I guess we're going to go back to the scene that I'm on. Here we go. Okay. So one of the things that we could do that I was going to try and show us, but it seems to be having some difficulty bringing up another window. But one of the things that we could do is we could do a simple Bible Gateway search of just looking for oil and looking for Aaron. And as we search for oil and Aaron, we would find some passages in Leviticus that would talk about when the priest would be anointed, how oil would be poured onto his head, and it was very specific. And a couple of things that we would take away from peeking at those passages in Leviticus is we would see that when the priest is being um, anointed for service, that it was something that was a fragrant offering to God. So it was something that was pleasing to God, but it was also something that was very sacred and very holy. We have a number of passages throughout the Bible where when people profane what God has called sacred and holy, it turns out dismally. It ends in destruction for them. We have Uzzah touching the ark. We have even Aaron's two sons who offer up an improper offering of incense and are consumed by the fire of God. And so this is what I would take home for us on this first simile describing brothers dwelling in unity. When it's happening, it is a fragrant aroma before God. It is something that gives God pleasure to see his people in harmony and right relationship. But also, um, uh, also, it's something that's sacred. This is something that's holy. And so we live in a culture in which if you get offended at one church, it's easy to just drive down the street to the next church, um, and to allow division to continue between brothers and sisters in Christ. And dear friends, this ought not to be. This ought not to be. This is not God's design or his desire. When conflict arises amongst God's people, we need to be people who are quick to pursue restoration and reconciliation. Now, we remember the words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 6. If your brother has something against you, excuse me, Matthew chapter 5, if your brother has something against you, leave your gift at the altar and go to him. Make it right. And so we need to recognize that yes, when we dwell together in unity, that is something that pleases God. But also, this is holy business when we're unified as God's people, and therefore, on the converse, we ought not to tolerate division or conflict or unresolved problems. We need to be pursuing bringing restoration in unity. And then number 3, verse 3 down here, the second simile, it is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion, for there the Lord has commanded the blessing life forevermore. Hermon is a mountain that's in the northern region of Israel, up north of Galilee. But if you've been to Israel, or if you maybe have a picture of Israel in your mind, generally it's a pretty arid landscape, especially in the south, in the Judean region. It tends to be a little bit more lush the more north you go, and certainly is so in Galilee, where you have a little bit more visions of green. But one of the things that I remember when I visited Israel is that while we were sitting on one mountain, kind of looking out, you would see a lot of brown and beige in the landscape, but you would see these lines of green that would go down the sides of mountains, and that's where the dew and the water would collect to become streams, and that's where you find life. Where the water is, life is. And so the second thing that we learn about why dwelling together in unity is good and pleasant is because it is life giving. Look at how this psalm ends. There, in the midst of unity of God's people, there is blessing and there is life forevermore. In the same way that water gives life to dry areas, where you have water, you have the wildlife, you have the greenery, you have the animals coming, you have people being able to build communities around water sources. And on the opposite, you don't have anybody trying to live in the middle of the Saharan desert. You cannot build a thriving life there. It's wasteland. And so what the psalm is conveying to us is that there is good and pleasant benefit and blessing that comes when we are in harmony and right relationship with other believers. So I say all that to say this: are you maintaining unity with brothers and sisters in Christ in the midst of this quarantine? I hope so. I hope that you're doing something more than simply watching videos, this video or church videos or sermons or whatever. I hope that you're finding ways to stay connected, to speak life into other people, to speak encouragement, to let people know that you're there and thinking about them, to offer up prayers. In what ways, in this unique season, where we're limited by our physical presence, but we have this technological presence that's relatively new to the world and certainly to Christian fellowship. How can we creatively use the resources that we have that are at our disposal to continue to maintain unity amongst God's people? That's the challenge for us, and that's how we have to be creative as the church right now. So I'd encourage you to maybe think about that. How can you pursue dwelling in unity to be a blessing to others, but also to receive the blessing as well, and to be encouraged and stirred up in your own life? That's our challenge. That's our pursuit. I hope that your mind is already thinking of some ways and some people that you could reach out to, and I pray that you see the blessing in that.